G'day everyone and welcome back to the channel. So I'm here with an X-23 Orochi 9.1 final boss solo. This is with my 6-star rank 3 Lady Deathstrike. Now Lady Deathstrike is an amazing counter to this champion. She feels like she's been designed specifically to kill this X-23. She has everything you need and isn't missing any part of any kit. But yeah, when it comes to the actual map itself, the nodes, it's all the same no matter which path you take when it comes to connecting to X-23. So you don't have to worry about that. As you can see here, that all the nodes are coming from her, not to her. So yeah, it'll all be the same. Once you learn it, you'll be sweet. Now, one of the solos I did with this Onslaught, and the other one, which I'll be showing here, I did with this Lady Deathstrike Sig 40 rank 3 6-star. I'll be doing my best here to slow down the solo and kind of walk through the abilities as we go, and hopefully that will mean that you can get it yourself. I personally find it much more helpful to kind of get a walkthrough as it's going compared to me reading out all these abilities, which I could absolutely do, but yeah, I'm going to choose to instead kind of explain it as it goes. So here we go, we're going to approach the fight. First you'll see the boost that I have on. I believe I pop extra, or do I just go in with the 20%? Just with the 20%, so not even that boosted. Okay, so here we go, straight with the fight. Now, we start off here, pause. So, stun immune, straight away. Parry, stun immune. The entire fight she's stun immune, not just parries. She's also bleed immune, heal block immune, and spectre immune. She also has 100% perfect block chance, and you cannot evade. So you can dex, but like inbuilt evade abilities will not work. And also, it's worth noting, no use bringing Heimdall because the cheat death mechanics, any of them don't work, including Nick Fury's second life. But again, she's bleed immune, so you don't need Nick Fury. The next thing to note is that grey icon on the top right. That is how many non-instant damaging effects are on her at the moment, and the threshold that you want to try and get to in the fight is 10 plus. Now, as you can see here, I've paused again because she hit me in the block with the parry, and then she hit me again in the block with a non-parry, and that actually has a 100% chance to inflict you with a poison and a bleed passive. Now, the important thing here is that if your champion is resistant to bleed or poison, that is accounted for here. So you can use champions who are immune to or resistant to bleed and poison. Or for each armor up, it gives a 20% chance for the bleed to not apply, bleed and poison not to apply. So 4 armor ups and they're completely turned off. Now I'm going to go in with a combo, and each one of my damaging effects that I put on, in this case ruptures, increases that counter, and then also she gains a poison passive. Now where does that poison passive come from? So when she, being X-23, is intercepted, struck by a striker, or immune to heal block, she's inflicted with a poison passive, dealing X amount of damage over 20 seconds. Now that's very good because that just helps you increment the counter even more, because yeah, once you hit 10 you enter what's called the violent purge, but we'll get to that in a sec. So for now it's just important to know that you want to be hitting and trying to stack up as many damaging effects as you can, be that through your champion's kit, or intercepting for poisons, or using the striker for poisons, or applying heal blocks again for poisons. And quickly, this top point states that every non-instant damaging effect on her has their potency reduced by 50%, but they have their duration increased by 100%, so that really helps you be able to stack more. Even though they're doing less damage, it's all about converting them, and I'll tell you how to do that later. One thing to note is that she does regenerate 95% of all incoming damage, but this can be reduced by 5% for each non-instant damaging effect on her, down to a minimum of 50%. So basically, for each one of those grey charges up to 9, she's regenerating 5% less of that 95. So you can get down to 50% at 9, but you'll pretty much always, with champs like Lady Deathstrike, be at that 50% regen rate. So here I get a little bit sauced and pushed back into the corner, but thankfully she finishes a full combo into my block, so I'm able to counter it with my own combo. And here I push her over into over 10 of those charges, so she gains Violent Purge, or Violent Purge activates. So that yellow timer is the Violent Purge timer, and while it's active, every single non-instant damaging effect on Orochi is paused but they do no longer reduce the potency of her healing, so she still heals back 95% during this phase. And if you let Violent Purge expire naturally, she actually removes every damaging effect, and then you take a massive amount of damage over 6 seconds. It's about 5k per damaging effect on her when it expires. But there is something you can do about it, and that has to do with that orange charge you can see now. The reason that orange charge is there, and the reason she's glowing green, is because of a mechanic called Violent Purge Backfire. So, while Violent Purge is active, interrupting Orochi's heavy attack with your own special attack causes it to backfire for the duration of the special attack. Now, when it is backfiring, she can't heal, and all of those non-damaging instant effects on her are removed, and new ones cannot be added. For each of these effects that's removed or prevented, she basically takes a massive amount of damage, which is 40% of the attacker's attack rating per those effects at the end of the special. Now I'm going to slow it down. Unfortunately, I get absolutely smacked here. But how it's supposed to work is, see, I'm waiting, baiting at heavy, and as soon as she activates it, I then dash back and activate my special, which then makes that yellow turn red, and that's the kind of backfire phase, and then I keep stacking them up, and then she takes that big burst at the end. So let's go through the cycle. You want to get 10 plus damaging effects so that that grey counter turns yellow, and that means that Violent Purge activates. You then can stack more damaging effects if you want to increase that number from 10 up to as high as you want, so long as that yellow does not expire. If the yellow expires, that's when you take heaps of damage and your fight's going to be pretty much over. Once you're satisfied with the amount of debuffs you have, or damaging effects, sorry, that you have over 10 in the yellow phase, you then want to bait heavy and counter with your special 1 or special 2. So what I like to do is to hold block, and that's how I like to bait the heavy. So hold block, and then she'll activate it. It'll be very clear because she'll glow, there'll be that orange, so you'll be able to immediately dash back and press that special 1 or special 2. And then at the end of your special, that's when she'll take the big burst of damage, and that's what you want to repeat throughout the whole fight, every phase except for the last one. I'm going to go through this next cycle pretty slowly here. I'm going to set the footage to ×5 for the whole thing, just to kind of make sure it gets in, because you're going to want to do the same thing. So here we are, stacking up the damaging effects, getting that grey number up. Currently it's at 8, so we're unfortunately in this first phase I was backed into the corner and had to do a bit of fancy footwork with the dexing, but here we're able to get her into Violent Purge and stack up those debuffs. I'm holding block, she's not hitting me, I'm going to hit in a little bit into her block, hold block. She doesn't want to use a heavy, I'm going to hit into her block and hold block. She's then hitting, starts it, uses heavy, so then I can hit in with my special. Special's tickling away in the red numbers now because we got backfire active, and there's the burst. So that's another cycle complete, and the thing starts again. So here we are hitting in, stacking up the damaging effects, not just debuffs, using the striker to get the extra poisons. Hitting in, she's at 14. I didn't have a special there, so I couldn't counter. I can this time though, making sure to get that heavy counter in, stacking up even more, big burst. Now this is a special 2. Special 2 is not too bad. You can just stay back. If you're in the corner, it's going to be a bit of a mischief because there's about 1 million hits there, it seems like. But thankfully, if you're far enough away, it's not too much of an issue. And here again, I'm just stacking up, trying to get into the 10 plus range to get the yellow. She doesn't have much health left at this point. You may find that if you have a higher ranked Lady Deathstrike, you'll be mincing through these phases, or if you get a little bit greedier during the yellow phase, because you could stack up a lot more. See there, I could have hit a bit more, but I decided I'm just going to launch it, because that should take her down. It does, into the next phase. Now, I promise I will stop talking soon, but I got to walk you through the phases. So just when it comes to phases in general, there's 6 of them, and when she dies, it's like other bosses. When she dies, she comes back with full health and starts the next phase. But one thing about her to note is that each phase, she reduces the incoming damage that she takes by 5%, and her special attacks cost 5% less power, and she's 15% more aggressive. You won't really notice the power or the damage reduction, but you may notice the aggression. It may make it easier for you to get intercepts, like stand-up intercepts, or, you know, post your special attack, she might dash in so you can get a free in. But yeah, and also when it comes to baiting at the heavy, that's also a bit easier if you just hold block. She's got a very high chance of using that. Phase 1 is your chance to get used to the fight, but then things get added for each additional phase. So we're going into phase 2 right now, and that means that when she activates a special attack, she'll gain a 20% inexorable passive for 1 second at the end of her special attack, but this can be removed if she's struck by a heavy attack. And also, when the attack is charging a heavy attack, they gain 10% spirit gauge every second. The important thing here is the inexorable, which is like Serpent's I'm not going to back down charge, where if you hit them, they don't move. It's kind of like Root, but they do it themselves. 1 second isn't a very long time. You don't need to heavy count it, but it will get increased to 5 seconds in a later phase, so watch out for that. Now let's get into phase 2. It's important to start every phase by dashing in because you get a free in, except for the first phase of course. You can do the spam light, but it's not guaranteed. This is guaranteed every single time. But yeah, so far it looks the exact same, but once she launches a special attack, which she may do, after, I'm actually going to punish her and detonate. Massive damage. Here we go. There's the inexorable. So this time I do heavy counter it. There it goes. It's removed. But again, we're in phase 2, so you don't necessarily have to remove it. Like there, I didn't, because it only lasts a second, and I'm not going to be losing that much space. And I think that personally is why it's so important to dash in at the start of every phase, because it gains you a good bit of ground, and you can afford to lose some in the later stages where there's that 5 second inexorable, and maybe you don't want to heavy and give up the ability to get in some basic hits. I'm hoping at this point it's making a lot of sense, just the basic rotation when it comes to the fight, not specifically this phase, but you know, phase 1 and getting into Violent Purge, getting that backfire, getting that damage burst. Because yeah, that's the main key to the fight. The phases don't build too much. You know, this 1 second inexorable isn't crazy, but there's the big burst and we're on to phase 3. Phase 3 simply increases the duration of the inexorable passive, so the you can't push me back passive, by 4 seconds to a total of 5. And again, you can still remove this by heavy countering her special attack that she gains the inexorable charge on. Now we once again want to start the phase by dashing in to gain some space. I like to do a cheeky intercept. Remember, she does get more aggressive every phase, so it gets less and less risky to do those backdrafts. It's still a risk, but you know, each phase it just gets more and more likely that she's going to dash in. So that was a huge burst straight off the rip, and there's special 2. I did not, again, heavy counter the special 2. It's too scary. There's no point, because you gain that space at the start and you can just keep slowly bleeding that out, especially with a champ like Lady Deathstrike who just deals so much damage. As you can see there, I got a little bit of cheeky extra combo while she was in Violent Purge, just to increase that detonation damage during backfire. So here we are again though, with the inexorable passive. I could have heavy countered that, maybe should have, because now I'm against the wall, but now I certainly will. And that pushes her into Violent Purge, and so I'm going to try and bait out a heavy attack there into my special 1, get the burst onto phase 4. No, just kidding, she's still alive. But that's the good thing about Lady Deathstrike, is she builds up those debuffs so quickly that the damage reduction, there it goes, she's onto phase 4. Very small addition in phase 4, it just makes her special attacks passively unblockable. You shouldn't be blocking them anyway, but it does again reinforce getting that space at the start of the fight and making sure that you don't give too much of it away. Now, because I ended the last phase with the striker, I get that weird little glitch, but it's fine, still went in, still all fine. Just yeah, building up again to over 10 to get into Violent Purge, and then baiting out a heavy when I see fit, and then punishing with my special attack. Here, I am quite pushed back. I'm in, you know, my half of the arena, and it's getting a bit scary. Thankfully, she threw the heavy attack there, so I was able to counter with mine, with my special, that is. Here, I should really heavy attack, yeah. So I'm trying to get some of the space back. There, as I said, every single phase she gets more aggressive, so she launched back-to-back specials. And after the knockback, I'm pretty sure she's going to dash in, so I get that intercept. Hitting away, put her in Violent Purge again, hold block, heavy, into my special, massive damage, massive burst. Special 2 I'm going to have to bait out here. I'm not going to be heavy countering it. No point, I've gained up a bunch of space through heavy countering the special 1s. They're very easy to kind of loop together, as you would have just seen. Back into Violent Purge. Not gonna punish that heavy attack because she may not have died. And yeah, we can get a little bit greedy here because it's definitely going to be the last phase of, last cycle of this phase, sorry, not phase. But here we go. Backfired and done. On to phase 5. Phase 5 adds this Nothing Burger node, which gives an admittedly pretty big Fury, but I wouldn't be too worried about it because you shouldn't be eating too many blocked hits. The extra aggression she gains from being, you know, in later phases should help her to launch specials rather than 5 comboing, 10 comboing into your block. And yeah, but if you get clipped, it's going to really hurt, so just avoid being hit and you'll be fine. With the Sage MCOC wisdom of don't get hit, we can move on to phase 5, and here we're dashing in again to make sure that we get that space. It's just so useful. I'm going to keep saying it every time. Get the space, secure the space. She's already up against the wall, which, you know, means I can have the inexorable passive up for a little bit. Here I'm getting a bit greedy with the Violent Purge charge, trying not to bait out a heavy until a little bit, but now she's starting to scare me. Thankfully though, she uses a heavy attack, more aggressive, later phases, so big burst, happy days, massive backfire. Back as a good thing, massive backfire as a good thing. Anyway, just moving through the phase as per normal. It's the same rotation. You know, as I've said, the inexorable is the only real thing that gets added, and it's not a huge inconvenience given how quickly you can plow through the phases. Like, as you can see, I'm on my wall now, and I was on her wall, but one special and you've gained back a bunch of that. Here, special 2, which I'm not going to heavy counter, so it's a little bit nerve-wracking being this close to the wall. Especially as I don't have too many debuffs here, and here I do heavy counter her with my special, but I was not in Violent Purge, or she was not in Violent Purge, so now the timer started and I have no power. Thankfully though, Violent Purge does pause during her special attacks, so I was like, I'll be fine, I can just do that, use Relic if I need. Thankfully I had enough power to just be able to bait out a heavy and then counter it with my special. Would have been a huge burst with 30 plus charges, but you know, she was dead anyway. On to phase 6. Now phase 6 does actually add quite a lot of text, but in execution it's not too bad. It does change up the fight though. So she starts off with 1.5 bars of power and her special attacks do not cost power. Thankfully though, she cannot reach the special 2, so it'll just be special 1 spam. So you know, you can have her at 1.999 bars of power and keep hitting her in the corner, and she will not be able to throw a special 2, it'll just be special 1s. The middle point just says that if you punish her special, she's going to lose 50% of a bar of power. Pretty helpful. And then the last point says that Violent Purge is disabled, so don't worry about stacking up the debuffs to then heavy counter and all that. You just have to kill her. She can't gain health. She is just basically a vanilla fight with a weird special attack, and the important thing is that the inexorable is not active for the first 2 special attacks of the phase, but then for the rest it is, so watch out for that. Now let's dash in, gain some space, and yeah, as you can see here, she's at 1.999 bars of power, not hitting that 2, and we're just stacking up the ruptures and the poisons as much as we can. Here, no inexorable since it is one of the first 2 special attacks of the phase. I'm going to then special 1, just keep her pinned against the wall because she's going to then start regaining some space probably. There's the second one, no inexorable again, no worries. Wait for the third one, here it is. She does actually gain 1 this time, but yeah, I mean, I'm rinsing her health down so fast, I'm not really worried about heavy countering it. I'm just focused on continually smashing her with my combos and specials. So here we go again. Just keep pushing her against the wall. As soon as you kill her here, she's dead for good. She won't be coming back. And there we go. That's done. 6-star rank 3 Lady Deathstrike solo. Hopefully you found this helpful. Hopefully I was clear with the kind of rotation and how to go about it. If you did find it helpful or you enjoyed, please feel free to drop me a like, a comment, and a subscription. It is seriously appreciated. And with that said, I'll catch you guys in the next one. Cheers.